I must apologize for a long time. I have no time to do the video blog because I've been traveling and doing press conference and nothing new to talk about. Today I would like to respond to the Pakatan Rakyat Manifesto. And it is an interesting document, I would say, with a lot of promises. But luckily, if you analyze it, most Malaysians are aware that when Pakatan Rakyat won in the 5 states, and they won big, part of the reason was the manifesto in the previous general election. But on further analysis, when they came into power, a typical example is even Selangor, Penang, Kedah, and Kelantan. Nearly 90% of what is in the manifestos are not implemented. Very simple thing which they could have implemented and inspired confidence in their leadership is a classical example is Selangor. When they say that they will give money to the single mother, money to the preschool children, free water, and you know, after 5 years when they have not honored all this, they are now being sued left and right, the Selangor government. And it has nothing to do with politics. These are genuine people who felt that they have been cheated. And what is interesting is that the court have upheld that there is a case the Selangor government have to answer. And what is most disappointing is the Menteri Besar of Selangor even said that what is in the manifesto do not represent promise by the government. In other words, what is in the manifesto could just be a con job. Because if it is not promised by the government, then why the hell do we have such a high-profile launching of the manifesto? The same in Kedah, and even in Penang. Some of the things that are announced by Guan Yin until today remains a dream. So on analysis of these manifesto, let's come to this new manifesto. The question is, how are they going to fund all the promises they made? This is not about politics. This is about simple arithmetic. If you talk about free education, even subsidizing private institutions of higher learning so that their fee will be on par with that in the public institution, that will cost the government a lot of money. A very good example is medical courses. In the government institution, it is probably about 60,000 per year. In the private sector, it could cost as much as 400,000 a year. So are you saying that this document promised to subsidize this? That means one student, 330,000. Now the government need to have a deep pocket to implement all that is in the manifesto. We have calculated that it will cost easily 200 billion to realize all this. There is no free lunch anywhere in the world. So we hope that the Rakyat will not be conned by this manifesto, I would say. So if you talk about the manifesto per se in detail, other than the free education, abolishing toll, all the outstanding debt of PT-PTN, which is 43 billion, would also be abolished, ensuring that every family have a $4,000 per month within 5 years. Now, an economist told me that there are about 3.8 million households in this country with an income of less than 4,000. And if you want to achieve $4,000 within 5 years, the Malaysian GDP need to be doubled up. And that economic growth of them of 7% is highly optimistic, despite the economic transformation program undertaken by the government. We noticed that we have done well in the last 2 years, but even then, it is stuck at about 4.5 to 5.5, although this growth is very high. But Pakatan Rakyat is talking about 7% growth. How are you going to achieve 7% growth when we have difficulty even achieving 5.5? Growth do not come from political statement. Growth do not come from political slogan. It needs a lot of, I would say, planning, implementation, but they never tell us how to fund this. It is just promise, promise, and promise. Another good example is to create 1 million jobs. Under the Economic Transformation Program launched by Najib, the BN government will create 3.3 million jobs in 10 years. They claim that they can create 1 million jobs. And that is interesting because the job they want to create is in the construction, in the plantation, and in the service sector. And these are all low-paying jobs to replace foreign workers. It's easier said than done. Most Malaysians will not work in the plantation. Most Malaysians will not work in the construction sector as manual laborer. So these promises would just be an empty promise. The other thing which is very glaring is the $1,001 minimum wage. Right now, I have been interacting with all the small-scale industries, the furnitures, even hawker centers are upset with $900. And the government has been trying to what we call fine-tune this implementation, postponing it so that they will then adjust their production, how to automate, how to address the issue of cost escalation. But Pakatan Rakyat's 1,001, I would say, will cause a lot of small and scale industry to close shop straight away. Of course, they have a facilitation fund of 2 billion. But how are you going to implement this? And that is going to be a big hassle, a bureaucratic nightmare to do this. Of course, the Indians are very disappointed that the manifesto has nothing for the Indians, as if the Indians have been, or they have no problem compared to what Barisan Nasional has done for the Indians. 100 million for the Tamil school, 100 million for the entrepreneur fund, a special quota for matriculation for the Indians, and now for polyclinic technical education, and also a special task force to address the IC and citizenships problem. So a lot of Indian friends are disappointed with Pakatan Rakyat. The other thing is the OKU, the handicap. There's nothing for the OKU. And despite DAP talking so much about local government election, and they are in fact suing the central government that they have been prevented from holding local government election, but in the manifesto there is none. They don't even talk about it. They talk so much about asset declaration. The manifesto has none on asset declaration. Of course, on Chinese school, there is none. There is no promise of building more Chinese school. There's no promise of building more independent school. There's no promise that there is adequate funding. In fact, the funding for Chinese school is much less compared to that given by Barisan Nasional. They only promised 220 million for all the vernacular school, for mission school, and religious school. Whereas in Barisan Nasional, everybody gets 100 million a year, and he has been getting it since last year and this year. And finally, subsidizing the petrol price. Our petrol price is one of the most heavily subsidized in the world. For every little you pump, the government gives you 90 cents subsidy. So they want to continue to subsidize this, and that will burn the pocket of the government. So taken in totality, the budget presented by manifesto by Pakatan Rakyat, more just to win the election. And I would dare to say that it is physically, financially impossible to implement because of the budget constraint, and two, it is difficult to achieve 7% growth. In fact, when there's a change of government, there's a lot of worry that there is political and economic uncertainty. The shares will go down, investment will actually go down, and the growth may be affected. A few months of reduce production, reduce investment, both local and foreign direct investment, will definitely affect the economic growth for this year. So to achieve 7% is a tall order. So ladies and gentlemen and friends, please evaluate the manifesto. Do not be taken for a ride. If they cannot agree even on the Prime Minister, which is the most basic thing, that if you want to take over a company, you must be prepared that who to run the company. They cannot even name one person to be the Prime Minister if they win. So these are telling signs that all is not well in Pakatan Rakyat as far as cooperation is concerned. Thank you.